Hello everybody, and welcome to another vlog and podcast from Texas Wine Lover. We're sitting here today hanging out with Jim and Karen Johnson from Alamosa Wine Cellars, and as the news has got out, they're closing shop here pretty soon and going into retirement so they can enjoy being on the other side of the bar much more, I'm sure. And we just wanted to kind of stop by and have a little last hurrah and kind of talk about things. So guys, I think most people know who you are and kind of the history of what you've done as far as, especially Spanish variety pioneers in Texas. But let's talk a little bit more about, looking back on what you've done. Would you change things? Are you excited what you've done? And tell us a little bit about what you have pioneered. And also after that, looking forward as wine consumers, what do you guys want to see happen with the industry? So go ahead.
Okay, well, the surprising thing to me is that somebody hadn't done what we did before we did it. Of course, when you start in a new area, you kind of grow what the market recognizes, and of course that's Cabernet, Chardonnay, Merlot. And at some point, we've been told by some people that were early in the industry here that they recognize that those probably weren't the best grapes for Texas. And so when we came in, the climate was pretty much California varieties, and we were sort of new in that we did our first planting with Sangiovese and Viognier, and they were new even in California at the time. And people told us that nobody's ever going to buy a Texas Sangiovese. Nobody just walks in the grapevine market and says, "We're having lamb tonight. What have you got in a nice Texas Sangiovese?" And so we did it anyway. Our whole approach was that if you're going to grow grapes in a climate like Texas Hill Country, you need to be looking at places in Europe that grow premium wines and kind of grow the stuff they grow. And to us, that said Sangiovese, Viognier, Tempranillo, Syrah, what have come to be known as Tex-Meds.
So we did do some things that nobody'd heard of, and that led to us having to do a lot of explanation every time we did an event, a wine festival or whatever. You're spending your whole time explaining what these things are because they're used to going up and getting a Merlot and a Chardonnay, and so we had to really come up with ways of explaining what these things were and why they were, they should be looked at as the new Texas varieties. And so it was, I went away from many festivals, barely able to talk because you had to explain everything. So not so today. Everybody knows what they are. So that's been a good change.
It's no longer, what is that, Tempranillo and Viognier stuff?
Yeah, that's right.
Tempranillo and Viognier. We've come a long way with that.
Right.
Everybody knows the pronunciations now. We used to say Merlot sells well because it's easy to pronounce and you can dance to it.
Yeah.
And now people can say Tempranillo with a nice flair.
Yeah.
Well, very nice. Yeah, and you guys first planted your Tempranillo in 98?
98. And the 99 El Guapo was the very first commercial Tempranillo in Texas. We made a whole 65 cases of it. And once we figured out how much we had and got ready to sell it, we went to our QuickBooks program, and our first 25 customers were each offered 2 cases of it. And that's how we allocated it. And as of today, there are 5 bottles left.
And it's still tasting good, amazingly. So, yeah, we've tasted it recently.
We poured it at our library tasting last weekend. We burned 2/7 of the world's supply. And everybody enjoyed it. It was tasting really good, and it's holding up well.
Yeah, it makes us feel really good, that first vintage is so good. There's some subsequent vintages that are still tasting really good too. So we think there's good things to look forward to in Tempranillo.
Yeah. Well, it also gives it gives people an indication that Texas wine in a hot climate can also age well too.
Yes.
Well, absolutely. You look at the world of wine in Europe. Tuscany thinks hot years are their better years. Some of the more memorable vintages in Bordeaux have actually been hot, dry years. So you can grow wine in a hot, dry climate and be successful.
Most definitely, yeah. put them in the ground, make them struggle, and
Absolutely.
they do their thing in the bottle. So going forward, you guys you're stepping off the podium from the top of the hill country as winemakers and going into retirement soon. What do you want to see as a consumer? Obviously, we've seen growth and a lot of change and a lot of quality emerging from Texas wine. What are you looking to see in the future? Anything
Absolutely.
specifically?
There's a lot of young winemakers coming along behind us and people that give us every reason to be encouraged by the Texas wine industry, and we're not going to be missed. I mean, there's still going to be a Texas wine industry. People are still going to be doing great things with Texas grapes, and we look forward to being consumers.
Very good. I'll beg to differ with the miss part. We're all going to miss you. But thanks for being humble. Anything else you guys want to add to the readers? I know you guys are closing officially on the 6th or the 5th? Okay.
The 6th.
Okay.
Like Jim said, seeing these young families growing up with the little children that are growing up in the winery, some of them are going to carry on. When we all started, we were all old at the time. All of us had had other careers, and most of us didn't have any kind of transition to family plan because our kids were, up there already in their own careers, and that you look across the board, there's only a very few that are able to go forward with family. So these new ones, I think, are going to start the real traditions of, wineries in the family, and so we'll be able to look back at, well, not us probably, but somebody will be able to look back and see that those long-term held properties staying, in some Texas family, and we think that's a good thing. They're doing also some things we never thought about doing, grape varieties, some of these new viticulture and winemaking processes that they're doing that is innovative and good for the industry. So we've got high hopes to be able to be tasting some really good Texas wines for a long time.
Yeah, and my palate confirms the same. There's a lot of great stuff out there, and it just keeps happening. And every year it becomes more and more innovative. It seems.
Yeah.
Like Benny Branch with the flash détente and
Absolutely.
everything else.
Flash détente, cryo maceration. Yeah. People are thinking about the process, and they're making improvements. They're incremental, but that's how you get better. You do it incrementally.
And the growers, if other than there being some really, a lot of new people coming in and some good talent coming in making wine, the growers know so much more about growing than they did early on. They understand that what we're looking for in grapes, and so I think that's had as big an impact. I think the wineries are expecting more out of the growers than they did early on, and then the partnerships that I've seen develop between the winemakers and growers, the owners and growers, that I think that's all been very positive, and you can tell from the quality of the wines that you're tasting now that those things have been good, and I think they're just going to even be better as they're trying new things and making some good choices about things to grow and how to make them and how to keep them, and those that just all gives us a lot of hope for the future.
Yeah, and the other thing you might point out is that the Europeans have had like 3,000 years to figure out what grows best where. We're Texans. We think we can figure that out in less than 100.
That's the way we do things. Yeah, we've come leaps and bounds, really.
Yes, absolutely.
I love to talk about, too, the farming in Texas. People think about, these old Italian families, and my great-great-grandfather, planted, all these grapes back in the day. And it's like, well, these guys are growing cotton and peanuts.
Yeah.
And then just the last couple of decades, it's been switching over to wine grapes.
Sure.
So it's a crash course for a completely different style of farming. And I think it's coming along pretty well.
Well, and our experience is the best grape growers in Texas are people that have farming experience. People that have been growing peanuts and cotton make generally make pretty good grape growers because they understand nature, they understand nutrient usage, they understand soil properties, they understand, climate and, the growth mechanisms, plant morphology. They're tuned into that sort of thing, and they make really attentive grape growers.
For those of us who, had grown tomatoes or roses, it was a pretty steep learning curve. And so to have those real actual farmers take on grapes, that really has helped. And then the other thing is, I think what grape growers and winemakers have been so good about being supportive of each other and sharing what they know and bringing the newbies along, and because you don't want anybody to fail. You want everybody to make good wine and be successful at grape growing. So all of those things, I think we saw a lot of that in the 90s that I'm not sure was there earlier on, and now it's just the norm. I mean, people are very forthcoming with discussion about what you do and how you do it and what you're spraying, or what you're feeding, or what, and then the winemaking same way. That there's been a lot of sharing and a lot of cooperation among the wineries, because we're only going to be as strong, as we all are together. So it's like a chain, that old thing. But it's still, I think that's made a big difference as going, looking back and seeing where the changes came and what were some of the things that really got us going. And you have to always go back to, we got some good stuff through the legislature. Susan Combs was so active in helping us get some things going that allowed us to open Texas up more to growing and making wine. That and I there's still a long ways to go, but I think we've been successful. We're going to be more successful as time goes by in really bringing the industry into its really good stride. So we got a lot of hope for the future.
And I think one thing Susan Combs recognized was this is agriculture, this is agritourism, this is small business, and the economic growth of the Texas wine industry is good for Texas.
Very good. Well, guys, I think we'll wrap things up here, and thanks for taking the time to kind of hang out and talk to us a little bit. And we bid you farewell, and I hope you enjoy your travels and being on the other side to be able to just consume wine now and have some fun.
We'll see you at the bar.
We definitely will. All right. Well, I guess that's a wrap, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
If there's a wine event in town, we're probably going to be there.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, you see a lot of these too around on the other side. And to wrap things up, guys, just to confirm, I forgot to say the date earlier. So the last day of being open here is going to be September 6, 2015, right?
Correct.
And right now, just so all the readers and listeners know, a lot of great wines here is still available, and a lot of things at a discount, kind of a retirement sale. So
some absolutely great pricing. So come on out.
Yeah, come on out and grab some and hang out for a bit. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in to another vlog and podcast for Texas Wine Lover. And until next time, cheers.